Welcome to Closing Arguments. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We have special live coverage from Wisconsin of closing arguments on closing arguments in the Prokopovitz murder trial. Let's take you in.
I'm sure. And the defense wanted to say, oh, she ran off with another man. She conceded. She's real. Yeah, there was somebody when I left. Didn't you read between the lines? It's probably someone who helped her get out. She told you, this defendant told her, you're not going to leave me alive. She left with the clothes on her back, and we're happy to say that that is a wife of Jim Prokopovitz that is still alive. And then on Wednesday, Lisa Mastey, the daughter of this defendant, these people are subpoenaed, have to come give truthful information. She talked to you about how she was close with Victoria. That's her stepmom. How Victoria babysat her kids. We asked her, did your dad know about the sludge ponds? Yep. Because of his work at McKeefer? Yep. Did your dad have access? Yep. She said her husband had even worked there for a time. No videos. Her dad had the keys. And then we heard Jason Friday. The insight Jason offered is he lived with his mom, Kathy. Now, the defense kept trying to elicit, yeah, but there's no paper records. There's no records to corroborate what your mom said. Kathy Friday told Jason in June of 2013 that she had been dating him for 6 months, which Jason post-dated back to January. And the audible guess from the defendant with respect to this, ladies and gentlemen, Jim doesn't like it when you say something that he doesn't like. And I know you saw that during the trial. And remember that when you're in your deliberations. That at the time, Jason is close to his mom. He's living in the house, spends a lot of time with her, watches her animals. And that mom said it began in January of 2013. Jason, vigorous cross. Well, isn't it true that there's not phone records? The ones your sister got in May show it as May. Well, that's also interesting. The phone records do start that we had acquired in May. But did you just hear the last video of the day with the interviews where now Kathy and Jim are talking about July and 4th of July? Well, if the defense wants to hang their hat on when the phone records began, it's already a date that the defendant's lying about until he gets confronted with the truth. And that's the problem with this whole case. That when this defendant doesn't have evidence in front of him that he believes will concretely show what's happened, he just lies. Because you saw all those lies in those first few interviews of Jim Prokopovitz. You heard the lies of Kathy Friday until they went before the court in evidentiary hearings, and we asked them questions, confronting them with proof and evidence about their lies. Then they had to tell the truth. And it wasn't till Jim was told in an interview with law enforcement, Kathy's already telling us that you guys are lying, that he then admitted it. Once again, worried about Kathy. And then you heard from witness number 2. So important, so real. Somebody who came before you corrected me when I made a statement about the pods in the jail and where they are, and is it 1 cell or 2 cell? And he's like, no, that's not it. And he corrected me. That type of levity, that type of information from someone like that, when the defense tried to crack a hole in what he's saying and saying, yeah, you saw this on the news, TV, they cover this case. Nope, just got out of the hole. There is no TV there or newspapers, no media. He didn't know about this case. And then he explained to you why you can also believe that. The fact that when he got this information, he didn't even believe it. Jim just kind of looked like a guy who might be on there in a drunk driving ticket, he told you. But that when Jim explains he's there for murdering his wife, but he's 100% certain that they're not going to find her. That he is sure that she is dead. That even to this witness, that just doesn't sound right. So he asked a little bit more, and he asked him about what he meant like that, about how he was sure. He said he encouraged and asked the defendant about, well, why wouldn't you just go to the police then? Like, why don't you just say where her body is? And this, ladies and gentlemen, gets you to intent. Because if it was anything other than intentional, people come forward. If something's an accident, you come forward. If Victoria had gotten rid of herself, you'd come forward. But if you kill somebody and get rid of their body, that's intentional. That's the only thing a no-body homicide can be. You've used the intent. You intentionally caused the death of another. In this case, you're also disposing of that. It's intentional, ladies and gentlemen. And how do you know that? You know that through the words of witness number 2. That he indicated that as he starts talking to Jim, well, why won't you come forward? Jim said, no, why wouldn't you just show them where the body is so they could run these blood tests? Very graphic, very real, very descriptive, very detailed. That's how you find the truth. And that the witness said, they can find the body, then they can figure it out. Nope, she's dead. They're not going to find a body. And if they do, no blood, no teeth. No blood, no teeth. Somebody that has that graphic of a description of what happened to somebody clearly committed an intentional act. There's nothing other than intent with something like that. And the fact that he said 100% sure they wouldn't find the body, and even if they would, they couldn't identify her. What's also scary is the fact that the defendant told him he was going to beat the case and he was confident that the wife's body would not be found. Now, the defense has raised something about, well, but in his statement, he's saying this happened years ago. It did. If you read that statement, Jim is telling witness to this in 2019, when Jim is telling him, yeah, it was years ago that my wife starts telling me we have a dispute because she believes that I could be having an affair and that it's death till they part, and told her. And now think of this, ladies and gentlemen, this links you to the truth and tells you that he told his wife that the only way that she would be leaving him was in a garbage bag. He told Darlene Ingalls that the only way she was leaving him is if she was dead as well. This is the riveting detail that leads you to the truth in this case. The fact that he further indicated when witness 2 asked him, well, how did it happen? Well, could have been an overdose on pills. Could he have drugged her just like Marshall Loritz found her in November of 2012? Maybe. Or he said, could have been strangled. Do you recall Darlene Ingalls talking about how he had choked her? Jim is leading you to the truth with the statements that he told witness number 2. Did he drug her the way he did in November? Carry her off? You heard his dimensions. He could have easily carried her off. Would there have been a sign of a struggle or disturbance? No. Could he have strangled her? You heard about the officers who indicated that when they've responded to those types of offenses, there's not necessarily any big disturbance when you strangle someone. Do I have to show which one of those happened and how that happened? No, because those aren't the elements. I don't have to show that mechanism. I have to show she's dead. I have to show he caused it, and I have to show he did so intentionally. You've got a couple avenues to find that he did that, and that is by the defendant's own words. Ladies and gentlemen, who had the motive, who had the opportunity, who was responsible for Vicki's disappearance? It's no longer a missing person case, it's a death investigation. And we know that because of what Mr. Prokopovitz has said. This case would have been enough without those words from witness 1 and 2. And witness 1, as I indicated, corroborated Jim still saying 100% certain his wife is dead and she is not coming back. That would be enough. From the state's perspective, that would be enough evidence. But then you have to consider who, by their own words, told you they have access to the sludge ponds. They have access to quarries. You heard from Rich Jones, the sludge ponds, if somebody's in there, they're not getting out. You heard the defendant, no blood, no teeth. And who would have gotten involved with another person as quickly if it wasn't predated, which the state submits there's evidence to, before Vicki left, if it is just 2 weeks after, as there are phone records that indicate? Who would do that? Wouldn't they worry about their wife? Wouldn't they be looking for their wife? Wouldn't they want answers? Not if they benefited from her being gone. They moved on from where she was gone. They wouldn't look for answers. They wouldn't look for the truth. They would hide the truth. And in this case, ladies and gentlemen, that would be enough. The state believes we could prove this case with that, but there is more evidence. It's the fact that Kathy Friday and Jim Prokopovitz took it upon themselves because they knew they had something to hide. And again, even a 5-year-old would know, what do you do if you do something wrong? Can you lie about it to avoid detection? They intentionally conspired and lied about the relationship, full known. And we don't even have to prove a motive. That's not on our list either. But that the relationship was the motive. They had been involved and in contact for years, and Jim was ready to move on. And that's exactly what he did. So they went into the Brown County Courthouse. They were sworn under oath. They told the judge lies when questioned by law enforcement. They were confronted with their lies, and not just 1 year. They told him 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, up until those evidentiary hearings. 6 years of lies. They get on the stand. Due to the inconsistencies, due to the evidence, due to the fact there's a video that Jim never looked for his wife that night, when confronted with all the clear and consistent evidence that they were lying, they both confessed and admitted they didn't. They gave full and complete statements to law enforcement, admitting they conspired together, that's the conspiracy, that they committed perjury, those are the lies, that they committed obstructing. All of that, ladies and gentlemen, comes from them. So when the court instructs you that credibility of a witness, how do you determine who's telling the truth, who's giving a lie? You look at their demeanor, you look at their motives, you look at the benefits they'd have. You look for something you do every day of your life, who's giving you a line of bull. Because this case, ladies and gentlemen, as we said from the beginning, that the truth is in the lies. It's the lies that Jim spun. It's the lies that he told to everyone. It's probably at some point the lies he started trying to convince himself had occurred. The best evidence in this case has now become the defendant himself. Everything that he said. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to follow the instructions of the court and seek the truth in this case. The truth is, there are 4 counts before you. If you believe the evidence in this case that has come from lay people, family, friends, law enforcement, searchers, the community people from Pulaski, you will find that the defendant is guilty of all 4 of these offenses. We would ask that you search for the truth, and with the truth is that he is guilty of all 4 of these. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a recess now before the defense argument. All right. Court stands in recess.
How long, Judge? How long?
Huh? No, I'm not. No? Good? Yeah.
There's the defendant. You just heard the closing argument from prosecutors inside that courtroom over probably about an hour 20's worth, going witness by witness, but methodically, and this is important, tying the evidence to the elements of the crime. That's the most important thing that you can do in a closing argument, is you've got to tie together. You've got to give the jury a roadmap to conviction. So you let them know what the law is, you let them know what you have to prove, but then you got to tell them exactly how you proved it. And the prosecutor did it in a very slow and dramatic way.